How's it going, everybody? It's Mask here again, but today I want to talk to you about the deck that I used in the official YuGiOh Link subreddit tournament number 2. We did manage to place first in the tournament, and I gotta say it was just about the craziest day I have ever had. It was basically a vanilla Harpy deck, my own take on it, whatever cards I had available to me to put it together. So let's check it out. Well, we'll start with the building of the deck. Basically, to be honest with you guys, you got your triple do names. Those are just the heaviest hitting 4-star beater right now. I know they're a little weak to the Yami field spell. Typically, it's not a problem. You got the Harpies and a Twister here to take care of that when it comes up. Triple Jerry Beans, which is so beautiful. How many times it played around Ladybugs for me during the tournament. I was a little scared running the triple beans. I know a lot of people are running Possessed Dark Soul right now. And of course, you have your triple Harpies combined with Harpy's Hunting Ground. You're going to get tons of back end clear. You're always picking up traps. I do find that this current meta, with everybody running the tons of econs, the value of the triple Harpy was starting to feel a little lackluster for me. But still, the synergy in this deck with Heart of the Underdog is just crazy. During your draw phase, when you draw a normal monster, you can reveal it and draw one more card. The times when you get that kicked in and just rolling is insane. Basically wins you the game, hands down. And of course, the real gut of this deck, Order to Charge, it's just going to let you beat around all those monsters they drop that are stronger than yours. Because I don't actually run too many abilities to buff cards. I don't run any tributes. The only thing I have in my deck is Metal Morph. Metal Morph can sometimes one-off, let you take care of a big threat. But yeah, no, this deck performed really well for me. Honestly, the change from your most classic vanilla Harpy deck that really performed well for me was Skull Lair. Skull Lair almost single-handedly won some of the relinquished matchups I was up against. But yeah, this is the deck. Now I'll walk you guys through the matchups I had and the couple strategic tech-ins, you want to say, I made to help me win the tournament. Now, the first match in the tournament was up against one of the tournament officials, John Belly. Now, that's a pretty heavy burden to bear, having to go up against tournament officials. But when I did see that he was playing with Rex, I wasn't as worried. This vanilla Harpy deck plays very well against Rex. You have 4 possibilities to draw in your open hand as methods to take out his field spell. And that is what we did in Game 1. In Game 1, I opened up with a Twister on his field spell. At that point, the tempo my deck is going to bring over top of his 1600 Dinos and the 1500 Element Saurus, he doesn't really stand much of a chance against you. But in Game 2, it was a little different. I actually never drew into a Twister or a Harpy the entire Game 2. The field spell did remain up on the field, but it was actually this play right here that won me Game 2. Some really good math. Let's check it out. So basically, I'm attacking into actually, that's not a King Rex. Crawling Dragon number 2 with a Duname's Dark Witch. He pops Mirror Wall, 1500 defense, 1800 attack, and with some good math, I figured out that Metal Morph on a Duname's is going to hit 1525 through a Mirror Wall when attacking a monster with 1900 attack. So I was able to clear the Crawling Dragon number 2 by 25 damage. This play right here pretty well guaranteed me Game 2 in the series against John Belly. This was the first matchup of the tournament. He wasn't able to pull into monsters, and our Heart of the Underdog is about to pop off. Now our second matchup in the tournament was against another Duel Links moderator, F-Chew. Now, he was running a brutal, top-tier, double relinquished Keith deck. Honestly, this one I was scared going into, but that being said, this deck still performs pretty well against Relinquished. It has, I would say, 5 solid counters in it. You have the Skull Lair, which is just performs phenomenally against Relinquished. I have running the 1 Twister, and as long as it doesn't clear my field spell, we have the triple Harpies, all of which work really well with Relinquished. Now, Game 1 against F-Chew, Game 1 came down to a nice play and sort of a mechanic in the game I want to highlight to you guys. It's a way you can play around Sphere Creepos. Now on the board here, I'm sure you can see a pretty famous setup. You got 2 monsters on the board, you're up against a Relinquished, you can attack over them, but Relinquished has a card in his hand. If that card's a Sphere Creepo, we all know we are in deep trouble. But even if I only had one monster right now, there's a way we could play around this with Twister. Really important mechanic to point out in the game is the 3 stages to the battle, the 3 steps to declaring battle. Most people just play on auto, but if you turn your toggle on in the settings, you actually have the options between on, off, or auto. If you switch it to on, it gives you the option to use all of your cards at every step of the game. So when you actually declare battle on a monster, you enter battle declaration step first. That is the only step in which a Sphere Kuriboh can be used. If you read the card says, when your opponent declares an attack, you can discard Kuriboh, turn your opponent to defense mode. Now, immediately after the battle declaration step is a step called the battle step. During this step, quick play magic cards can still be played, but a Kuriboh cannot, which is really interesting, and a lot of people don't realize this. Of course, after the battle step, you have the damage step. In the damage step, quick play spell cards, except for Half Shut, or the spells that actually interact with your attack or defense, can be used. For example, Mirror Wall, Metal Morph, and many other cards that are listed as being able to be used in the damage step. Biggest thing being, you can no longer use quick play spell cards, but you can use things like Mirror Wall and Metal Morph. And that goes to say, on the other flip side, people who activate Mirror Wall and Metal Morph too early also make similar mistakes. Let's check this out. I was abusing Twister here to work around a Sphere Kuriboh. Basically, we're going to declare an attack here. We have the Harpy Lady. Go to attack relinquish, and I'm going to specifically count the steps. Here's the battle declaration step. Now we're in the battle step, which is when we're going to activate Twister from our hand, pop the Jerry Beans from behind relinquished. Even if he had a Kuriboh in his hand, he'd have no opportunity to use it. Now, I know it was a little bit of an overstep. I was just playing around. Realistically, I could have just Twistered, attacked with both. Kuriboh wouldn't have been able to save him from both attacks. But still, I always choose every opportunity to elaborate on this Twister mechanic anyhow. And that right there led me to winning game 1. Now, in my second game against F2, I honestly won by drawing just about the most perfect hand you could ever draw from this deck, especially when you're up against a double relinquished Bandit Keith. My opening hand was Skull Lair, Order to Charge, Mirror Wall, a Harpy Lady, and a Sphere Kuriboh. Now, Bandit Keith went first. After switcherooing, he decided to not play any cards, so I got to open my hand up. I drew my Order to Charge. I placed all the spell and traps down on the field, and then this move right here is what won me game 2, making the executive decision to also not put a monster down. I didn't want to waste my Harpy Lady's effect. That's something you definitely want to hold on to, especially when you know when you're playing against a relinquished. Just one more possible way to counter him. You don't want to waste that spell or trap removal. So I decided not to play any cards, but there was definitely a secondary reason to that. If I put a Harpy Lady down and he plays a Sonic Bird or a Senju, well, a Senju specifically, Sonic Bird, he'd be more inclined to attack into my Harpy Lady, but certainly not with 3 spells or traps on the field. So now let's check this out. I decided not to play the monster because I needed to get this Sphere Kuriboh in the graveyard. We're sitting on a Skull Lair. We got to get that Skull Lair ready to counter relinquished, and then we had this game in the bags. So I left the field open. It's his turn right now, and we're just waiting. Essentially right now I am just praying. There it is. He attacks into me. We get to discard the Kuriboh, and now we're ready to go. We got Skull Lair on the field, prepped with a Kuriboh in the graveyard. We know he just pulled relinquish with the Senju. I'm definitely assuming at this point he has an ability to pull and play relinquish, but the rest of this basically plays out. I set the field up. He does get the relinquished out, and we just instantly pop it with Skull Lair, and that basically ends game 2 against F2. We took that series 2-0. Now in the third round, of course, I go up against Tut Pup. This is the first time we actually met each other head-to-head in the tournament, and to be honest with you, I got slaughtered. Tut has a really good Gravekeeper's deck, and I ran into it running the exact deck we see here. Now, I guess if I was to draw really well, always have Order to Charge up, it's a lot easier to handle this deck, but game 1, Tut wins game 1 with back-to-back enemy controllers. He manages to pop an enemy controller, keep his Priestess on the field, and then another one to actually pull my monster over, summon in a Chief, and I mean the rest was history. He brings a Priestess back, manages to to pop down an Oracle over top of the Priestess next turn, and even manages to overwhelm an attempt to stall the game with the Windstorm that I had. It was a slaughter. That was game 1 versus Tut in round 3. And then let me say, game 2 went something like this. Here I am, I got the field looking kind of nice, and boom, there goes the Soul Exchange. Mind you, this play could have been more painful. He didn't have any Gravekeepers in the graveyard. He was actually opening up with this. That being said, it might have actually been in his best interest to save this Soul Exchange, get a Gravekeeper out first. I didn't know what his hand was though. But he gets the Soul Exchange in, he's gonna summon Chief over top of my Denames, and I really don't have anything to answer this play with. I got a Mirror Wall down on the field. He's smarter than that. He's not about to attack into the Mirror Wall next turn and give it back to me. But basically game 2, he gets this huge board presence right away with the Chief. Now the opening Soul Exchange against Tut was a hard hit to take, but I was able to regain board control, to be able to get some monsters on there, and I even pulled off a pretty cheeky play with Skull Lair here. I knew I had 4 monsters in the graveyard, so I suicide my Harpy Lady into his Chief, and actually put the 5th monster in the graveyard and pop Skull Lair. And here we're actually able to pull off a Skull Lair kill on his Gravekeeper's Chief. Check it out right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Honestly, this was my favorite part of this game here. And then boom, we're gonna take him out. And then the nail in the coffin here, Tut manages to top deck a Possessed Dark Soul. He's gonna take Jerry Beans. I do manage to defend it with a Harpy Lady. We got a Mirror Wall up, but he's then gonna follow up with top decking a Recruiter, which he puts down. I get a Jerry Beans, I suicide them in. Then he top decks an Oracle to drop down over the Recruiter and take this game home. I lost this series 0-2 against Tut Pup. Now in round 4, I was up against Lucky the Renegade. Now he was also running a double relinquished Bandit Keith deck. Now in game 1, I was fortunate enough to basically draw Skull Lair out in my first 5 or 6 cards. So I had that set up on the field. His relinquish did not stand a chance, and my monsters were just going to overpower his. That was game 1. Game 2 was a little different though. It went a lot longer, but I did manage to pull on turn 13 when I had 11 cards in my deck. We drew Skull Lair, got it on the field just in time, because on turn 14, he did manage to finally get his material together to summon Relinquished. And here he goes. Relinquished is coming in on the field, but like I said, we had just drawn into Skull Lair. Relinquished just stands no chance. Get the activation in. Boom. Relinquished is off the field. And I took the series against Lucky in round 4, 2-0. There it is. Now in round 5, which is going to be the last round of the Swiss-style half of the tournament, of course, John Belly's got to pop back into my stream and be like, yo, guys, guess what? Winner of this game is making it to the top 8. Puts the pressure on right away. Now we're up against Pharaoh, and Pharaoh's running quite a unique deck, which I really like to see. Something that's not quite like all the other meta decks you got right now. It had Toy Magician in it. Well, as you can see here, you got Swift Guy the Fierce Knight, the Fiend Megabytes. It was basically just a well put together spellcaster deck using Destiny Draw. Now, and with game one went in my favor. I managed to get Heart of the Underdog out on the field really early, and I think on turn 4 I had already drawn into 7 cards. Heart of the Underdog is crazy good because it basically lets you draw to a support spell or monster or trap every single turn. So no matter what you're drawing, hopefully you get a couple monsters. You really only have to get a couple monsters once, then they're there, but then you know no matter what, every time you start drawing, you're going to draw a spell trap or Karibo in my case. So it really helps. Game 1, he wasn't able to get board control and I just stomped him. Now game 2 though, game 2 we were going back and forth, and Pharaoh had just about the best top decking luck I'd seen so far in the tournament. He manages to top deck a Karibo after I managed to Windstorm his Fiend Megabycer. My Harpy Lady was going to take it out in defense mode. He had just top decked a Karibo, deflected the Harpy Lady, and then lo and behold, he actually top decks a Swift Guy the Fierce Knight, which is instantly playable if it's the only card in your hand, and he crushed me in game 2. Now in game 3 of the series, here we are, the final game. Winner of this game is moving on to the top 8 cut. I managed to attack into an apples early. Of course, that pretty much guarantees we're going to proc the enemy's destiny draw, but this did end up being probably the biggest misplay of the day for me that I experienced. I'm up against Pharaoh here. We proc his destiny draw, and he destiny draws like Soul Exchange. Now I gotta say, when he does throw this thing down on the field, which he's going to in a second, my heart drops. We're just like, oh man, here we go. It's just, this is gonna hurt. But as you can see, here he goes. Soul Exchange comes down. I'm just like, oh no, this isn't gonna be good. We do have Heart of the Underdog though. I got a Kribo in my hand. I wasn't feeling too terrible, but he uses the Soul Exchange. And then he ends his turn. Right now he's just going, oh, I actually can't tribute summon. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. The suspense was real. I'm just sitting here like, what's coming out? What's he hitting me with? Oh, this is gonna hurt. There it is. Opponent's about to end his turn. I'm like, what? What? And of course, I draw into a monster, and that was that. We ended up taking game 3 with Pharaoh. I do apologize. I had to put it on here, but yes, we had the failed destiny draw into Soul Exchange, not being able to play the card. I gotta say I'm glad, because who knows how that game would have went if he managed to actually pull off something else with the destiny draw. But here we go. We make it into the top 8 cut. It's a double elimination top 8 bracket. Pretty hype. That's gonna conclude the first video of this 4-part series. That was the Swiss style half of the tournament. The next video is gonna cover the best of 3 elimination grind to the grand finale. If I can figure out how to do it, there's gonna be I'm gonna put an annotation here where you click on it, it'll take you to the next video. Anyhow guys, don't forget to check us out on Twitch, hit me up on Facebook and Twitter, and of course, subscribe to the channel, and let me know what you think about everything down below. Stay classy.